a little bit easier kind of from that presentation point of view, when I can see some faces, or if you have questions, again, feel free to always kind of chime in whenever you need to. So,
Great. Well, the recording is going. Welcome everyone. We're so excited to kind of kick off with our first webinar of the year. As you've probably seen, Main Street America is going to be doing several of our webinars of this year, and I'm really excited about this one in particular, since I know this is something we kind of started talking about at the end of last year. We kind of started talking about the kind of high level of marketing and storytelling, but Joy's going to dive even a little deeper today. So I'm really excited. Obviously, you should have access to your camera and microphone, but just be mindful of any background noise. If you have some, maybe mute yourself when Joy's presenting. And yeah, feel free to, again, ask questions, engage. We're really glad Joy is here with us. So with that, I will pass it over to you, Joy.
thank you very much. Okay, so I'm just 1 second. We were practicing, and then of course, want to just make sure that all right, I think you can see this. Just make sure that, wondering if there's a way to, oh, all right. Well, it's a little different than I'm used to, but that's okay. We're gonna wing it. All right. Hi, everybody. So I'm Joi Austin. For those of you who may not have met me prior, I am a senior program officer, and of course, this says Director of Illinois Main Street because this is like apparently an old first slide. So I'm the senior program officer for Economic Vitality and Main Street America. I will make sure to change that. So when you have this presentation after words, that you can kind of reference it, and you know exactly who I am. But I've been working with Main Street America for a while now, but I'm also I am a former executive director for a Main Street program in Illinois, and I also worked in economic development. So just a lot of different hats that I've worn in sort of the Main Street space. So if there's any questions that pertain to different things, I feel you. I've been there, right? So I just wanted to go through with you a little bit about what it takes in terms of marketing on Main Street and sort of telling your story, and some of those things that we keep track of. Why do we do the things that we do in terms of reinvestment statistics, and maybe how to use those things in the storytelling that you have when you're marketing your Main Street. But to kind of start off, I always like to kind of point out some things in terms of our Main Street approach that we all follow. Again, having the 4 points kind of the center of our work: economic vitality, design, organization, and promotion. All the things that you kind of hear day in and day out in the work that you're doing. What we're really trying to do here is make sure that we're working with our property owners, our businesses, our public and private sector partners. And this really is very comprehensive, right? We want to make sure that these things are kind of working in balance. And when people are, asking what it is that we do for their communities, that we're really just making sure that they understand that we are working with them and not for them. So what it is that we're really trying to create, again, is that sense of vitality, really kind of creating that sense of place, really this understanding of that sense of ownership, and of course, the sense of community. So I picked out some pictures. I'd been in Indiana quite a bit my first year in Main Street America, so I was really happy to visit with some of you all, and I had a really great time learning about your programs and the wonderful work that you all were doing. So let's see. Oh, it's not letting me click. There it is. All right. So thinking kind of a little bit about, framing what we're talking about here. What's the most important resources that you have? It's really kind of the people, and of course, making sure that your organization is sustainable, right? And the balance between those two things. So I bring this up kind of specifically, really because those are the two things that we're going to be talking about in terms of who your audiences are, and what you're trying to do in terms of building those resources. So you're really trying to capture those people to come into your organization, make sure that they're there for you, to do the work that you're doing alongside you, and then of course, again, how do you really kind of make sure that your organization is really capturing and making sure you've got enough capacity to do the work that you're doing. So again, kind of what we wanted to talk about here today in terms of marketing your main street, is finding what those resources are, that are important to you and bringing them into your organization. So, I just wanted to point out sort of like a list of different, types of stakeholders that you might have. A lot of times we always talk about, really just the many hats that we're wearing, the many avenues of the work that we're doing. And it is something that you want to showcase is that value to all the different people that you touch in your organization. For property owners, you can kind of see there, the work that you're doing. What does it help them with? It helps increase taxes. It helps with stabilizing rents. It helps with values, in their properties. For your residents and consumers, the people that kind of come in and utilize your downtown, you're really enhancing the place that they're living. You're really, again, making sure that you've got that sense of place for them, that sense of pride, that community pride. That's what you're developing. For retailers and owners, you're really creating this great business mix. You're again really making sure that people are coming and utilizing the businesses that you have downtown, and you're helping their cash registers ring. For your other government agencies and your partners, you're the ones that are boots on the ground. You're the real experts in economic development. You really help with increasing values again, whether it's property values, to then help with a lot of the other civic engagement. You're really creating these partnerships, in terms of being able to help your economic development partners recruit businesses in. So, never underestimate the benefits and the values that you have for all of your stakeholders and all the people that you touch. And know that, it can be a little bit tricky then as you're, again, marketing to different people and telling that story, because you also kind of have different types of audiences that you're reaching out to. But there are some ways to really, again, make sure that you're providing sort of qualitative and quantitative data for the folks that are your stakeholders to, again, help them realize the value that and the benefits that you have for them. So just a little bit in terms of statistics, you know, I know that it's, sometimes we really want to look towards a lot of, our larger givers, those that have it within their mission to give to your organization, the strategic partnerships, but never underestimate the value of individuals as well. So those residents and those other folks that you have, around you that are using your space, you're really helping to benefit the whole, and know that they appreciate it. And if you're able to kind of target also the people that are around you that are using your downtown district, never underestimate that giving by individuals is still a huge trunk in terms of generosity towards nonprofits, and towards organizations that are really, again, creating a lot of vitality for their communities. I know that it's still important to engage partners in many different ways, especially in whether it's sponsorship or partnership in giving. But know that you have an ability to really reach out to individuals as well, and find ways for them to engage with your organization. So that being said, I wanted to showcase some of some folks that are really kind of highlighting the things that they are doing, and the ways that they are telling that story. So, a couple of things to kind of consider, and my slide is still, sorry guys. Okay, there's the other one. So some things to really consider. The questions just to kind of ask, right? Why is your Main Street program important? Think about that. Why? What is it that you need to help your program succeed? So when you have those couple things in mind, you can kind of start to build out a little bit of your story. So I just wanted to kind of showcase here Lawrenceburg Main Street does a really great job at their annual report. And actually, my colleague Kathy really likes to use this actually as an example, sort of specifically because of this particular piece of information that you all are able to capture. Not 100% sure how this is captured, but I really loved this particular part of the story that you can tell. The organization itself provides a lot of events and activities and ways for people to engage, but also keeps track of the funds that are raised for local charities, which I think is really wonderful to know that engaging other local partners in the activities that Lawrenceburg Main Street has to offer the community also helps raise funds for these charities as well. So just a very interesting way to be able to track some data, and then again provide that real story that you can tell your community. And in general, just kind of thinking about the people. So you've got a lot of sort of numbers that are involved in the stories that you're telling, but make sure that you're also tying it into the people and the folks that are involved in your organization. So as we kind of think about, how we are using these numbers and the data that we're gathering, this is really the importance of that data gathering is to be able to then kind of put it in a way where you can show the successes that you have within your downtown district and within the work that you're doing. So I really kind of love this example in terms of just again being able to see what it is in terms of changing that data being gathered into a really lovely way to present a story, and how to then maybe interact with your Main Street program. So think about what it is that it is in your message. We kind of forget sometimes to go back. We're in a lot of times I think we're just kind of in the work and we're sort of a little bit tunnel vision. We're in it every single day. But not everybody really knows day in and day out the things that the organization is doing. So it's really important in the end to make sure that we are not only stating it in that maybe annual report kind of way, but then we are able to take the individual pieces of information and really kind of dive in and present it out once more to our organizations, to our partners, to our residents, again, to the people that utilize the downtown, in order to be able to continuously engage them. So being able to take these different pieces is really important to really share, again, the history of your organization, your mission and your vision. How many times do we even look at it as an organization? How many times do we review those things and make sure that it still aligns with what's happening within our community, and the work that we're doing and the way that we're supporting the strategic plan, let's say, of our community? And how do we really, again, showcase those pieces of information? So here again, just kind of looking at sort of the quantitative and qualitative ways that you can tell the story, really kind of looking at the numbers. Again, total building rehab, new construction in Jasper, that's a really impressive number, and something to really tout. And then how do you even just take that little bit and maybe highlight it even further? So it coming from this beautiful piece that you all have created, but then how do we then magnify the impact of that one piece of information and start to develop sort of almost its own marketing plan of action? Maybe this also then is something that can be featured in a social media post. Maybe it's something that you can ask one of your building owners or your property owners to talk through that particular investment and just find ways to, again, highlight one piece of information that can really kind of transfer throughout your different mediums, to then continue to really explain the value of the organization and the work that you're doing. So, thinking also a little bit about the journey of somebody that, I mean, this is a buyer's journey, but just thinking about somebody that's interacting also with your organization. So, what you're really trying to do first is build that awareness. And building awareness can be a little bit of a challenge because it is sort of the biggest piece. You're really trying to introduce people to what it is that you're doing. You're trying to showcase to a natural audience. Maybe it's a special event or activity and they're just coming in to enjoy it. But do they know who's putting on that activity? And then from there, you want to move them into a space of considering, that it is a Main Street program that is bringing a lot of these events and activities to your community, that it's a Main Street program that is helping to kind of fill spaces, let's say, in your downtown district. And then from there, kind of bringing them into the decision to then engage. Kind of looking at things through this lens of a buyer's journey can also kind of help you develop then the way that you want to interact with your audiences, the way that you want to kind of bring people through your organization and start to really then make the decision to maybe engage a little bit more, maybe participate on a different level, whether again that's providing some time as a volunteer and kind of working on the people that are coming into your organization, or whether it is again monetarily giving. Maybe it's the place of that they work that they can convince to donate to a special event or activity, or maybe it's individual. Again, going back to the fact that we know that individual giving is such a high percentage of giving to our nonprofits. How do we really then get an individual to make that decision to contribute to your organization? And it is because you are starting to, again, start off by building that awareness, really capturing them into the spaces and being that cheerleader for your downtown and creating additional people and cheerleaders for your downtown. So, a couple of different things in terms of, you know, what you want to maybe start to think about in terms of focus. Um, you know, I think that what's important sometimes to remember is that what you are doing really right now is something that you should, continue to really tout. I think that, again, sometimes we get a little bit into the weeds in our work, and sometimes we don't realize that there are things that are happening in the moment that we really just need to exclaim. And then, of course, after an event or activity, right? We're pretty exhausted. We've been planning, for months for something to happen, but we also don't always know how to tell the story of the successes of the things that have happened. Just a couple of things in terms of how well you tell that story. Again, focus. What are you doing now to help your downtown business owners? What are the things that you can explain to them that are happening in at this moment that they can participate in? What are your future plans for your businesses, for your organization? What are other communication methods? Your plan right now, again, it's more important than ever. How is it that your organization really adds value to the community? How do you kind of think through some of these things? And then creating and maintaining, again, community traditions and heritage. Highlighting all of those accomplishments, all of those things that you're thinking about for the future. Just some things to kind of think about in terms of that successful storytelling. How can you really communicate very effectively to different groups and organizations the things that you're doing, the things that you have planned for in the future, and continuously doing it? I feel like sometimes we think that if we have it out there and it's out there in the world, whether it was a newsletter or a Facebook post or an Instagram reel, that our audience has clearly seen everything that we had to show them. We don't have to do it again. But in reality, it's things that we just have to continuously do over and over again to stay top of mind. But then also just to continue to make sure that they realize what they have to be proud of in their community. So, just things to consider when you you are telling that story is being able to, again, think of all the different things that you would like to be able to showcase about your organization and the things that you're doing, and then find ways to continuously take those pieces of information and and continue to tell that story. So, one thing that is very important, when we think about sort of again converting somebody into participating within our organization, again, whether that is with their time or whether that is with their treasure or their talents, make sure that you have something very specific in mind that you are looking for and that you are asking for. And wrapping that up is definitely key. So think about what it is that what's the outcome of the specific thing that you're looking to explain to folks. Are you trying to match donations for your next campaign? Are you trying to make sure that you get some in-kind donations? Maybe it's something where you just need a little bit of extra help from your partners to provide something for again businesses or an event or activity. Are you trying to have somebody again volunteer their time and talents? Are you wanting folks to share your whatever it is that your campaign is on different social media channels? In the end, you want to make sure that you're able to really kind of get to that end point and make sure that you're specific. I think that this is also very important when it comes to really kind of making sure that you are developing your leadership pipeline, for instance. It's important to know what it is that your organization needs as you're thinking about your organization for the next 3 to 5 years and the growth that it's going to be taking and the people that you might need to help make that happen. Or maybe again, finances or capacity that you need to make a goal happen within your organization. Have that goal in mind, and then start to really kind of dive into the people, and again, maybe whatever capacity you might need to build. Have that in mind so that you know exactly what it is that you want to ask for, because a lot of times we find that in terms of really cultivating the next generation, for instance, of volunteers and board members, it's really important to really think about the person and the passions that they might have. So it might not even be within, for instance, the job that they have, but it could be really just within the passions that they have for their community and the things that they'd like to give back to. That you can really ask them that you want them to be involved in a very specific thing, and it really increases your chances of getting somebody involved if they really feel like, man, yeah, this person really knew that I had an interest in this particular piece of giving back to my community, and that is a much likely, more likely that they will participate if you ask them very specifically and kind of make that close. So make sure to wrap up. Unlike what I'm doing right now with this slide, make sure that you wrap up. Okay, so including data, we talked about this a little bit, and I showed a couple of different examples in terms of what it is that people really kind of look for, and how you can really kind of showcase and highlight all the amazing things that you're doing. So we kind of look at these two different ways. The quantitative, really again, by the numbers, those really highlighted examples that showcase, again, whether that's attendance, whether that's investment. This is data that you are probably already collecting. And think about ways to, again, really highlight and showcase those numbers. And then qualitative, again, what's behind the numbers? How can you really make that human connection with the things that you're doing? A lot of times that ends up just being really asking, maybe even starting with your board, or the people that interact the most, the people that engage with the organization the most, and really participate in your events and activities. How can you really kind of ask them to provide testimonials? Maybe make sure that when you are surveying business communities, that there's ways to have open-ended surveys, so that way you can utilize what they're saying, and present that in a way to show that it's not just about the efforts that you have, but here are the outcomes. These are the success stories that we have to showcase because of all the work that we're doing. This is what we can showcase in terms of the quality of life that we're trying to build, and that is the value of our organization. Is we are partners in being able to really elevate our own communities and continue to build that local wealth. So really important to kind of consider both of these things when you are telling that story, so that you have and a really an important way to understand why it's important to collect that data, because this is how it can translate. I know it's not always fun to provide reinvestment statistics. It's a lot of work to keep track of. But when we have those great numbers, not only is it a way for you to showcase it for your community, it also obviously gives Indiana Main Street a really great highlight to be able to showcase as they are telling their story as well, and as they work with you all. So just a couple of different tools, because it is difficult to collect sometimes, or it's hard. You know, we're in our day to day, and that list, man. Every time you check something off, it's three more things to be added. But you know, think about maybe that reinvestment statistic form that you have. What might be an easy way to kind of have that live, you know, daily in a calendar, where maybe you're just able to, you know, write a note at the end of your day to collect that information. Forms and survey tools, other ways to just kind of continuously ask for testimonials. How do you maybe build that into your event work plan? Let's say maybe there's one person that is in the crowd that's just sort of dedicated to, you know, to asking folks like, "Hey, you're here at this really great thing that we just planned. Are you having a good time?" And just ask for that testimonial. Ask if you could take a photo of them. But you do have to sometimes make that plan and be a little bit purposeful. Our phones, you know, it's something that I always use in terms of notes, or I like to kind of, you know, I always email myself as a my own reminder list, but it's just a really easy way to just continuously capture things, and you never know when you'll be able to use that information again, whether it's a quick post, or if it's something more meaningful that you're trying to collect to again get to maybe the annual report. But our phones are just such powerful tools. So finding ways to make sure that you know, from our phones to the way that we are telling our story, that there's an easy way that you know that you like to utilize your phone. And then, of course, being able to engage in different ways on social media, you know, whether it's competitions or different hashtags, those are actually ways to be able to really, again, generate content from other people and get it from other folks. And then, of course, being able to use your analytics. So, whether it's Google, whether it's sort of looking at your website, or again, your social media, all of those things are ways that you can kind of gather different bits of information to always have content to be able to share to your audiences. And then, of course, again, the scheduling, we understand it can be very, very difficult sometimes to plan for those things. But if it just make it a habit, you know, those are the things that make it easier. So there's a Network for Good. If you go online and kind of just look up some of the tools that they have there, they've got a lot of really good strategies as to not just, again, going back to the why it's important to collect the information, but then, you know, how do you then keep it really simple and not make it feel overwhelming? That it just sort of builds into a habit that you have throughout your day, throughout the visits that you're making it. You know, maybe every single time you're going to say hi to a business or drop something off for them, you're always collecting a quick photo, for, you know, and that it doesn't have to be used right away. It's something that can just be, you know, used later. There are a lot of different things in terms of scheduling tools as well. And, you know, for me, I live by my calendar, right? So maybe it's just having a little, you know, 30-minute reminder that's always sitting on your calendar that this is just the time I'm going to use to then turn a little bit of data into a story, or make sure that I want to, you know, ask for, you know, ask my audience to basically, you know, engage in some way, shape, or form. So just these little things to kind of add to a calendar, just to remind, and think about things that you maybe do really well right now. You don't have to do anything differently, but just kind of rotate the types of ways that you like to tell that story, and just find a way to just put that in your calendar, because I think that we all have been living by our calendars these days, and that's just a really important thing. But just know that it doesn't have to be difficult. It can be very simple steps. So then, kind of thinking about your program and the way that you're sort of, again, reaching. And, here are just some really great examples of how you don't have to do the work necessarily, also, right? So there are things that are happening that that you really want to express that are yours. So new board members being able to express it, these are new partners that are coming you know, uh, into your organization. That's one thing that is wonderful to highlight. But then think about also things that just happen organically in the press. So your press is already covering the things that you do. And it is always a really great way to showcase, again, a story without you necessarily having to develop the content, and then and push it out. So if you have that really great relationship with your press, and you know that you're being covered in different ways, make sure that you are capturing that, and make sure that you are really showcasing, again, being able to take one element of promotion and marketing and sort of expanding on that. This, I think, is just kind of really nice to kind of showcase then to your 5,000 plus followers, is an opportunity to really, again, work with your press that's already happening, and then pushing that information out. So you have a much further reach than you think in terms of your program. And there's just ways to sort of leverage, again, different things that are happening outside of maybe your normal marketing plan, to really, again, highlight the events and activities that are happening, and the different things that you would like to celebrate. So it's really nice, I think, that this lives right on the website for Downtown Wabash. And it's just, again, a way to highlight from all different sources, again, the different things that are happening downtown. And then, of course, going back to those testimonials, I do think that it is important, again, to kind of highlight, what is it that your partners are saying, because it's not just it's not just the folks that are immediately within the organization. It's your community. You're doing all of these things for your community, so you want to be able to really share how people are feeling about the work that's being done in your downtown district. So these are just a couple of different highlights also about, making sure that you're showcasing it on your website. Make sure that you maybe highlight, again, things that happen on your social media. And then here, Auburn Main Street had a really great video that they had, not only on their sponsorship page, but I believe also their volunteer page. So again, seeing that engagement, both for helping to recruit volunteers, but then also to ask, to help people see why they should support Auburn Main Street. It was a really nice video that was right on their website in different places, so that people could see how they can engage. So we would love you to be part of the Main Street program as a volunteer, but then we would also love it if if you don't have the time to maybe at least contribute to our campaign. So just different ways of being able to really share, again, testimonials as to the work that's being done. And then we've got this really great example, again, of how you're bringing that qualitative and quantitative data together in one space. Again, with sort of highlighting, basically, the volunteer uh, experience that this person had. And then also, again, going back to those reinvestment statistics and being able to really kind of highlight all of the investments that have come in publicly and privately, to showcase all of the increase in investment throughout the year. And then, of course, always making sure that you're going back to why those things are important, and so that everybody understands and is on the same page about what it is that the work that you're doing is going towards. So really highlighting and making sure people understand those goals, and knowing that it goes back to that purpose. So the work really is something that is again highlighted, that it's what you wanted, what your community is looking to do, the goals of your community, that your organization is helping to achieve those goals in this way. And these are, again, the ways that you can provide some kind of ability to participate. So thinking about kind of being active in the way that you're able to story tell. So I just wanted to kind of have people keep in mind a couple of different tips. So tips on design. So I think that everyone here might have maybe touched Canva at one point, maybe. It's a really fantastic tool that is, there's a free version and a paid version, but the free version is very robust. But there is a Canva for nonprofits that I think that everyone should at least take a look at, because it's a really easy kind of way to just get into a little bit of designing different things for, again, your social media. Make sure though that when you are thinking about design in general, that you use really clear fonts. Avoid sort of script. It's a little bit difficult to read, but just something that is really clear. I always also like to say use a 2 font maximum. I know sometimes we like to, be very expressive in our fonts when it comes to promotional items, but just make sure that, when you are designing something, it's a lot easier for people to read just 2 fonts. And then, of course, think about your brand itself. So going back to kind of logoing, what are the different colors that are included in that brand? Make sure that you're kind of aligned basically with the brand kit that you might have. And then also, when it comes to visuals, it's we are visual people in the end. So making sure that things are bright, that there's, a clear photo of, the smiling, happy people that are shopping or experiencing something in your downtown. And then know that, having sort of white space is okay. You don't need too much information on one piece, but these are just a few little tips as you're kind of actively, telling that story. Just a couple of tips in terms of design and that element, depending on what it is that you're creating. And then when we think about just again having that one page of information, just some recommendations. Also, again, keeping in mind your target audience. Different things are going to change again as you're telling that story of value. Whether you're talking to a property owner, or a business owner, your community partners, or a resident, you got to keep in mind that target audience and make sure that you're using again compelling and concise headers, adding information in bullet points, making sure that when you do have sort of a paragraph of information, let's say, that you're not using a centered font, making sure that things are justified, and then including other elements. Again, something that's a very clear quote, something that's impactful from one person. Don't use as much jargon in things as in terms of getting that information out to the public. You might know it because you're in it every single day, but not necessarily for the regular public that's reading the information that you have to offer. So make sure that you are really kind of communicating again to the audience that you're targeting. And then again, going back to that ask, make sure that we're wrapping up with that ask, and how is it that they can engage, and what is it that you really want them to do? Why is this information out there? What would you like from them? So just a little bit on, really again, what makes this marketing collateral successful. Taking those photos and using for social media, that really is very important. Again, we're such a photo video driven world at this point. So how can you just be kind of continuously collecting that collateral? I think that, again, our phones being such a really important tool in this area, to just sort of in your daily being able to really kind of showcase again, the work that you're doing and capturing that work. That's really important. Being able to be very authentic with your story. That is something that has been, we use authenticity often in terms of how we want to relate to people. Folks really just want to make sure that the story is really authentic, and it really just kind of captivates and shares what it is that's going on in their community. Make sure that the data that you have is reliable. The numbers that you're collecting, it's a very powerful resource, but you also want to make sure that you're collecting something that is reliable as you're showcasing that. And again, making that ask, making sure that the pieces of information that you have out there is something that kind of can come back so that people know how to engage with your organization. And then, of course, persistence. It's very important as well. Don't stop till you get that yes, or at least try really hard until you make that goal. So, whatever the goal is that you're looking for, you know that you can reach it. So, just to kind of give some thought about this, collectively as your organization. Um, Think about these questions. How can we engage residents to support Main Street's work and its small businesses? What messaging will they respond to? What's the best way to market to them? We've got a couple of really great organizations that we've worked with where those residents are really looking forward to this very specific mailer that they send out, which it might not be for everybody else. When I moved here to Quincy and Adams County, I found out that, man, people really like to listen to their local radio station, and a lot of times people would say, "Oh, I heard you on the Mary Show," and that always blew my mind. But it just, it's where you are and who you're getting that message out to, and who's listening to it. How might you reach those that are still working and have the money to give? How can you reach those people? So think about those things kind of collectively. For those with membership-based programs, how can you make them feel a part of the downtown, solicit some more support to make sure that they can again engage with you? And what are your successes, or what are your hopes? So just give it some thought collectively in terms of, again, what kind of story is it that you would like to tell, and what's the audience that you are trying to reach? And then individually, so as individuals engaging in our Main Street organizations, what's your role, say as a board member or as a volunteer? Fundraising, right? That's a big piece of what you're trying to do. What's the role then of your organization or outreach committee? Creating those tools to really kind of help support the board, to collectively fundraise, or to collectively, again, build that pipeline, that volunteer pipeline that you're trying to create. And then, of course, as an executive director, making sure that people are aware of how to tell these stories, being able to give your board member, let's say, a one sheet that kind of talks about the different things that are going on, to provide the opportunities for people to engage, whether it is in a volunteer capacity or a fundraising capacity. And just make sure that everyone really knows, again, the data that you are collecting and how they can also specifically tell you or tell that story. So just a couple of things. So this was an article that I was kind of reading, and of course, they were kind of just using the word like failure in this, but I don't think of anything as a failure. I really think that in the end, it's a learning process. So I switched everything that said failure into a learning process. But I just wanted you to kind of leave with this thought in mind. A learning process is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently. Or a person who never made a mistake, never tried anything new. Or Ariana Huffington here. A learning process is not the opposite of success, it's part of success. So I just wanted you to know that, again, it's really hard, I get, to really focus in sometimes on a specific way that you want to tell your story or how you're doing it. There's a lot of different audiences, there's a lot of different mediums. But we do have to start to kind of just think about the things that we are good at, what our organization is good at, and really kind of lean into that. But I never want people to think that, oh man, I tried this and it didn't work. It was a total flop. There are no failures in attempts to try and reach an audience and to try and share your story. But there is definitely a learning process and a way that you can really kind of think about, how do I start again? And this time I'm just more informed. Oh, sorry, guys. Okay. So just a couple other things, that the Forbes article kind of had to offer. Just know that, again, it is a process. Listen to, what it is that you had done, try to understand it and kind of move on. Again, learn from sort of the things that are happening, learn from those successes and just kind of lean into it, learn from any types of mistakes or mishaps, and stay positive. Make sure that you're using that process as that opportunity to kind of find ways to refocus your message, let's say, and try again. So, again, let the learning piece define you, not the process itself. So just a couple of takeaways there, but just know that, as you start to really develop your voice, that authentic voice, you've got a lot of different tools and a lot of different ways that you can do so. So with that, I wanted to leave some time for any questions that might have come up, because I know I kind of speed through information sometimes. Um, and it was, I could only see one person. I think, Abby, I just saw you. So I wasn't sure. It's always hard to vibe with people when you can't see their faces the entire time, and I feel like I'm just like talking to myself. So I apologize for that sometimes, where I kind of babble on, because it's hard when I can't see your lovely faces.
Are you able to see people now, Joy?
I can see people now. Yes, I can
Okay,
see them
okay.
at the top there. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, so I was looking a little bit in the chat. I don't think there were any questions. There were some people asking for some different resources. But yeah, does anyone have a question that they want to unmute and ask or throw in the chat?
I have a question. This is Hillary Beal. I'm from Madison, Indiana. I love Lawrence Berg's annual report and some of the others. I mean, they're great examples, and we have not done anything that formal, but would like to. And one thing that our organization committee is debating is, do we try to use Canva and do that in-house, or do we outsource it? And it's kind of back and forth whether we feel like we have the right talent and resources to make something really great. If we were to outsource that, what kind of person would we look for? I mean, are there particular firms? Is it graphics firms? Is it communications? Like, who would we look for to do that?
Yeah, if you're outsourcing, I mean, I would say that it's probably going to be like a marketing and communications or marketing advertising firm. Usually they're the ones that have that, but I think it depends on what it is that you need. So, do you need somebody just for designing? Because then there are folks that kind of just focus on design. Like, you could say, hey, we've got these lists of activities that are going on throughout the year, and we just need you to be the person to create all of our Facebook headers and Instagram, So that is kind of one specific thing, but marketing and communications firms should then also be able to take that to the next level and actually schedule out communications. So if you need like that full suite, then yes, those firms would be the ones to then take the information and actually be the ones to schedule out all the Instagram, Facebook, press release, that kind of thing. So it kind of depends because it's sort of a little bit two different areas. But some people just need the design. They just want to, say, hey, here's all of the activities and we just need these things. But some folks also ask for a little bit more.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, and I would
Canva's
say
lots of fun though, by the way. So if you want to try it out, like take some time, but it's a lot of fun when you kind of start to be able to figure out.
Yeah, and we have done things in Canva. We do use it pretty regularly, but I think having a great design communications eye, that's a whole different talent set. And do we do it okay, or do we do something that's really high impact and fabulous?
Yeah, and I know that several, I know Michelle and Madeline both said in theirs that they use local graphic designers, or if you have someone on your board who has graphic design skills, someone, because I know, yeah. Well, that's okay. Even if you can just see if they like, and still like, I know I've heard some organizations get it, that service donated to them as like but then also you could just pay and support a local designer in your area to be able to kind of, because I agree, I think there is something to like really professionalizing it, though you can do it really nicely in Canva. But if you really kind of want to take it to that next level and even do a more fleshed out report, that can be helpful in that regard. So. Any other questions? Got time before we need to wrap up, so.
Well, can you talk a little bit about the Main Street America blog and how communities can use that?
Yeah, our blog. Well, so first of all, sign up. It's definitely something where I think that you can always utilize that really to just showcase again kind of the network. So I think one important thing that sometimes we forget is not only do you have Indiana Main Street to obviously turn to for resources, but you also definitely have the network of Main Street America as members to turn to. So we've got a blog that comes out. I don't know exactly you see, this is our marketing and communications team. They're the ones that that have that schedule. But we showcase kind of everything that is either things that are going on in the network, trends that we are seeing sort of from our field service staff. But then also, in general, we try to tackle a lot of things. Again, those trends in terms of like housing. Sometimes it's in terms of different preservation aspects. It's definitely something where I think you can take that and sort of showcase, okay, this is our bigger, broader network. And these are the things that are happening sort of nationwide, that we are finding similarities within ourselves and our communities. And it's definitely something that you can share as a resource. It's definitely something that you can also, maybe if there's something very specific that you all are going that's happening in your community, I think that you can also utilize the point. So I think the blog and the point are two really great ways to kind of engage in the broader network, to kind of ask different people, well, what is it that they might be going through that's similar to you, or something maybe that you're looking to try. I think those are two ways that you can really kind of engage the Main Street America resources to, again, continue your story. Sorry, I don't know if that was exactly what you were looking for, but I mean, sign up for the blog if you don't get it. We also have like a highlights of the point. If you have your login credentials, there's kind of like a collective email that kind of goes out that just talks about different topics that have happened within, let's say, the week. So it's nice to kind of chunk that out and just see, okay, what are people talking about?
Is
So-
there a limit on how many people from our board or our organization can have access to the Main Street America site and blog?
I don't recall, because I
I
feel,
feel like, and Abby or Andrea, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe it's like, I'm throwing
I
out a
thi-
number, about like around 5 or so.
Yeah, I think it's like 4 or 5
logins.
sub members or something. So
Okay,
for
Yes,
so we
your
couldn't put our whole board on, but we could put some on. Okay.
right. And you
yeah,
could
yeah,
share username, you know, if you
yeah.
want to have one that, you know, you can kind of, if you want people to be able to get on, that's what I would do.
Thank you.
Yeah, and they give you a really nice digest too. So you can just kind of again read really quickly what some of the conversations are, and uh, sort of filter that pretty quickly.
And I also shared this article from Locable, and like I was saying in my team's message there, you don't need to pay for Locable necessarily, though it's a very cool service if that's something that would be a good fit for your organization. But Brian, he puts out a ton of information on the point, and also just on his own website from his blogs and resources, and he talks a lot about how and I know, you know, especially if you know, if you come from the marketing world, you know, it's like we talk a lot about how it's not always enough anymore just to post on social media. There's some other things that organizations and especially as you're talking to businesses about what they're doing, things like cross promoting on like Google My Business and making sure your hours are updated. And there's a lot of different things that work together to help bring people to that awareness, for them to even move into the consideration stage, because that tends to be the hardest part, is getting people from awareness to consideration. Once you've kind of got them in and they are invested, like, and I always say, like, they drink the Main Street Kool-Aid, then like from there, you know, you can usually get them to buy in some way, whether that's volunteering, giving to your organization, supporting you. But it's really that awareness that I think across the whole state, we're kind of struggling to tell our story and have people know what Indiana Main Street is, what your local programs are doing. So anyway, I think Locable has some really good thoughts on that. If you want to kind of even dive in a little bit more technical, um, so.
Yeah, I agree. I think that in the end, it is kind of saying it over and over and over again, and not just assuming that one time it's already reached, you know, your audience. There's some really interesting also AI stuff that if you are looking at any of that, asking sort of that question, like, you know, 10 posts that kind of relate to this particular thing, and you might get surprised about what that would spit out at you, so that it sort of lets it sort of again takes that information and sort of reorganizes it so that you can share it once again. So I don't know if anyone's you know, experienced any of that yet or has dived into any type of AI stuff, but it can be a tool in that regard for sure, to kind of cut on time as you're sort of regurgitating, let's say, information again. But definitely, you're right. Building that awareness and kind of getting into consideration before they make that decision. It is the part that is a little bit harder.
Any other questions for Joi while we have her for a couple more minutes?
I will double down on the Google thing. When Google asks you, "Hey, you know, there's a holiday coming up. Do you want to update your hours?" You know, get in there, log in, make some changes, because they really do want to make sure that you're active, and that also showcases to other folks as well. So I think it's important that when people are looking up, whether it's your organization or if you're, you know, imparting this knowledge onto your businesses, it's really important. People like to see that a business has been active in a certain amount of time, and even if things haven't quite changed, it's always good to make sure that you're refreshing those things so that other users can see that you've been active.
Okay, I'm not hearing anything. All right, well, then we will wrap up for the day since we're almost at time. Joi, thank you very much. I really appreciated this. And I know we'll continue to kind of try to provide some more resources and tools around the storytelling, social media marketing. Like Joi was saying, it is a lot. And it's like, I know we've said that. And the reason we're kind of pushing it so much is because we do want people to know the amazing things that you guys are doing at the local level. And we want to be able to share that out. So we're just trying to find more ways to provide you all more tools and guidance on that. So if you have any questions or want to talk further, also technical assistance requests are open. Those close towards the end of March. So if this is an area where like we want to dive in a little bit more deeper for our organization specifically, I'm happy we can do that as a technical assistance visit, and I can come and we can kind of take a specific look at what you guys kind of do an audit of your current marketing, what you're doing right now, and what maybe you want to try to implement to improve that moving forward. So yeah, with that, I will let you all go. I'll send this recording, send the presentation, all of those good things afterwards. And it will be on our YouTube page. Yes, so I will get that out to all of you guys. So thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.